Okay, so welcome everyone. This is the final session in the Filmmaker Lounge Digital Bootcamp. I'm Katie McCullough and I'll be your host today. If you're a regular viewer, then welcome back. You're here for the fourth instalment. If you're a first-time viewer, then let me fill you in. So this is a space that Festival Formula and the Film Festival Alliance created for us to chat about areas of the industry and the festival circuit that filmmakers wanted to know about. And this is a final piece of the puzzle in the little kind of section that we've put together this time round. And we have some fantastic guests today to discuss what next. A question that all filmmakers tend to ask when it comes to their film towards the end of their circuit journey and beyond. So our guests are going to briefly introduce themselves and which organisation they are from. So Celine, if you could start first, and then we'll do Rishi, and then we'll go to Xavier.
Hi, my name is Celine. I work for the website Show of the Week. It's a website that just helps the online releases of films when they're ready to be available for everyone worldwide. Instead of just putting it in the internet void, going through us allows the film to have a certain level of visibility within the industry and the audience that we've built over the years.
Perfect, thank you. Rishi?
Hi, I'm Rishi. I'm the founder of Pause. We're a platform that creates intimate digital experiences for filmmakers, for their fans and their network, where they can monetize more effectively on Pause than anywhere else. You can monetize through tipping, live stream ticketed events, integrated merchandise. We've just started rolling out stuff on NFTs, which is non-fungible tokens. So that's what Pause is. We're a platform for intimate digital experiences around films.
Perfect, thank you. And Xavier?
Hi, I'm Xavier from Film Republic. We're a London-based sales company who handle world cinema director-driven films, and we board them sometimes through development and then also towards the end of production.
Fantastic. I love the reason I love doing these talks is that I get to put people in a room together with completely different perspectives, but also from the same area. And I think it's really, really interesting to get a collection of people like all of you folks, because you are different ways of how to utilize your film at the end of a festival circuit or during, kind of towards the end. And I know that a lot of the filmmakers that watch us do these are always saying like, what next, what do I do, and how do I do it, and what should I do? So for those watching live, please do feel free to pop any questions in the Q&A box at the bottom. If you're watching on Zoom, if you are watching us on Facebook, put it in the comments below and they'll get filtered to me here. We do encourage folks to tell us where they're watching from as well, because we have quite an eclectic audience kind of watching in from different time zones. I've got some questions from the people that have signed up, and also some questions that we get asked a lot. So what I'm going to do is this is kind of, casual conversation. I'm going to throw it out. Anyone who wants to jump in, jump in. If no one says anything, I'll pick on one of you. So don't hate me. So the first question that we have been sent in as somebody that signed up for this talk is, how do festivals factor into your individual roles? And they've put brackets, attending festivals, looking at CVs, or festival premieres. So of course, you're all from different parts of the industry in terms of, life post-festival. So how do film festivals factor into what you're doing?
I can start from it.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm also a festival programmer. I program for a bunch of festivals in the US. So festivals factor in it's usually, I've seen the film, it has played, if it has played a big festival, I've usually seen it. And so that's the major way it plays into my daily work. As for Show of the Week, we try not to be starstruck by laurels. We try to treat all of our submissions the same. Of course, if a film has done a big festival, we might pay more attention to it, but that's about it. It's just we flag it in that way, but it really does not impact our decision. We don't believe that we have an editorial line that aligns with the big festival. So each one we've accepted films and we've declined films from them. So it just, yeah, it's just having the laurels. Yeah, they're prestigious, so for sure we'll pay attention just because of that. But ultimately, in terms of the decision, it doesn't factor much.
It's good to know. It's good to know. I think it's a popular misconception, I think, that you kind of have to have those big kind of festival laurels to kind of get attention across the board. Rishi, you look like you were about to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to echo something similar. We don't try and get kind of starstruck by a list of winners. We're also more focused on the filmmaker as well as the film itself. We're all about monetization and helping creators earn a substantial income from their films so they can continue making great films and go through the festival circuit and win awards and then create screening experiences for us. And so, you know, you can earn up to $5,000 in a day on pause. And we're kind of, and we've had films that have never gone to festival circuit because they get picked up and then gone on to earn a substantial amount of money on our platform. But because there's an incentive and there's strategy from the filmmaker. So film festivals play a role. But for us, we're obsessed with this idea that filmmakers are becoming more like entrepreneurs. Filmmakers are commercializing their work and trying to create a business around their content so they can continue making more work, because, you know, the economy in the film sector is not supportive enough to emerging grassroots talent and independent filmmakers, and that's what we're trying to reinvent. So for us, it's kind of, we're fairly agnostic as to whether you've gone through a festival circuit or not. It really all depends on the filmmaker and their ambitions, that we're trying to fuel someone's ambitions.
Yeah, it's great. And Xavier, you're kind of, I suppose it does play an important part for you, because you're always traveling as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely two sides to that question. You know, it was really interesting hearing both of you, because I agree and I disagree with both of you on different points. One, actually, the first point is it's very different between shorts and features, because, like, you're absolutely right. Short film programmers do not obsess over festival accolades and laurels. It's just not the same market. And, you know, it's because shorts, I mean, to oversimplify, they don't really make much money. It's not compared to features. It's not really a real, like, sales market. You know, so you don't need to look at, you know, how much value can be brought to distribution from the festival selections. With features, it's the complete opposite. You need festival laurels. The buyers are dictating what they want. And, you know, I mean, I'm getting like hundreds of emails a month, and they'll say, you know, what do you have in Cannes? What do you have in Berlin? What do you have in Venice, Sundance, Toronto? And I think that's it. I mean, I don't think I missed anything out. Like, those are the key 5-6 festivals that the buyers are asking for product from. And there are exceptions. Of course, you'll find exceptions. You'll find, like, I don't know, Kino Lorber will have picked up a Jewish film, or Film Movement, or Breaking Glass will have picked up an LGBT film. There are loads of little exceptions you'll find, which, you know, match a different circuit, or, you know, genre distributors also. But generally, it's A-class festival product, unless you have, of course, the elements for pre-sales. So cast, famous director, sellable genre, and budget, like a real budget film. The other thing is, like, you know, and it's going to come up, if a filmmaker comes to us and says, we have all these laurels already, my reaction would be, well, why do you need us? You know, it's too old. It's just too old for us. You know, our job is monetizing and using each festival selection to attract buyers. So if and we get this, they'll come to us and say, I did 60 festivals. And to me, that's 60 opportunities gone to sell the film. Of course, not every festival, you know, makes a difference to sales. Like, you know, if you mention a small little one in the middle of nowhere that nobody's heard of course, it's not going to change sales. But you know, normally we position the film in advance to do the regional premieres. So, you know, like, everybody wants the Cannes or Sundance, for example. You'll do a European premiere. It doesn't need to be Berlin. It could be Colle Vivari. It could be Locarno, San Sebastian. You'll do an Asian premiere, Busan, Tokyo or something. You'll do a Latino premiere. And those are each, key selling opportunities. The other, Rishi, you're totally right about, there not being sustainability for filmmakers in the festival circuit. I get the pitch all the time, which is we offer exposure. And exposure doesn't pay the rent.
Yeah.
And how do you build long-term sustainability, a career for the filmmakers and filmmakers, I include producers with the whole team, not just the directors. And there is a big problem, especially on the sort of entry level or for films that aren't from key interest territories. So, you've got the key language, English, French, Spanish, Italian, German. That's kind of the top sellers globally. And anything else, Asian language or even Latino Spanish, for example, they're not big exporters. And so those films and filmmakers do get taken for a ride, especially within the whole non-commercial theatrical circuit. And I want to hear more about your your service.
Well, what's quite interesting is, off the back of that, is that there's a very hot topic within a lot of programming circles and festival director circles about, a lot of festivals in the last year, because they haven't been able to offer hospitality, as in the token gesture that they would provide a filmmaker when they attended the festival, that a lot of them actually have morphed that into saying, well, because we can't give you anything, we'll do a profit share with the takings from the screening or the block that you're in. Now, it's a very kind of hot topic. The reason being, a lot of film festivals don't have access to be giving away those funds because they need those funds to run the festival. And other festivals are like, actually, no, we want to do this. We've done it last year. We're going to continue to do it. And it's interesting how it's always been that kind of baseline that with short films, you don't really make any money. It's a business card that you're putting onto the circuit to get exposure for your name, to prove that you can handle a budget, to prove you can tell a story. But I feel like Rishi, you're right. Every filmmaker is having to be that entrepreneur, because sometimes they're wearing several hats. They're kind of going, I want to make this film, but what can I do with it 10 steps ahead so I know I'm doing the right thing now, so that I've got a product at the end of it. And that sounds quite clinical, but I think there's two different types of filmmakers. There's filmmakers that are kind of making it as a stepping stone, and it's like they're always increasing to kind of get somewhere else. Or there's a filmmaker that kind of makes things what they want to there and then, and it's kind of a more ad hoc, like the next thing I'm going to make is this, and the next thing I'm going to make is that. And I think the topic of money and filmmakers, they kind of go hand in hand and repel like magnets as well. So
yeah. It's interesting. I mean, you line up 100 filmmakers and you'd be like, do you care about making money from your film? And all 100 would be like, no. And then you ask the same question, like,
to their producer,
what you doing right now? Oh, I'm raising money for my next film, right? and they do. I mean, I literally had a someone pitched me with a film that I wanted to make. And it was so close to their budget, like a couple of £1,000s off their total amount they wanted to make this film, and they couldn't get over the line, so they ended up not making the film. It's the same person who, when I spoke to them about 6 months ago, they're like, you know what, it's not for me. I think making money from a film maybe dilutes from the artwork of it and blah blah blah. And so there's this whole kind of like, I mean, I think it's changing. I think more people are becoming wise to the fact that I can, as a creative individual, there's nothing wrong about me trying to monetize my work more effectively across different platforms, not just on Pause. We're quite time bound. You get a small slot, you drive hype, you earn as much as you can in that time. It's not, I mean, money comes secondary. It's about creating an experience, but a good experience and opening up to people to allow people to contribute. People end up earning, it's around $15 per payment now, which is like a PVOD model that we're working at. Sorry, where's my trail of thought? Yeah, I think the stigma around it's changing, which is a good thing.
I think filmmakers know how to make films, and they're not business people. They have no idea how the business side of the industry works. That's why when they're making short films, they're completely unaware that there is a possibility to make a little bit of money back or to make the whole money back. They're just going in, and that's why they never think of it, because their whole train of thought, and they've planned everything out of like everything they want from the film, and it has nothing to do with money because they don't know it's an option. And that's definitely something that has been changing over the past year because of all those Zooms. Instead of being at a festival, at a party, they're home. So they might as well attend the talk, the discussion, and they're learning that there are all those opportunities now. And that's probably why it is changing. Now they're more educated on that side of the business. And that's why it's changing for sure. Yeah, most of them don't even know they can make money. They think, yo, short films it's just there to be a calling card, which it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, we get two types of filmmakers come to us. One that's like, I want to try and make my money back. And we kind of have to preface it by going, we're a festival strategist. So we're putting your film into festivals. That's not sales, it's not distribution. You might get profit share, you might get a screener fee, but it's not a blanket across the entire festival circuit because territories differ. And it's really interesting because if you speak to an American festival, they're used to paying screeners but for features because they're blocking out that time to screen that film from a distributor or from a production company, whereas a UK filmmaker has no concept of screen fees because no one in the UK really pays them for shorts, I would say, unless they are handling it from an agency and it's an international project. But if you look to Europe, mainland Europe, not the UK, and Canada, it's very common for them to upfront say, yeah, here's a $50 Canadian screener fee for every time you screen your film. You don't have to ask for it. It's there, it's standard. But it's generally because it's kind of inbuilt into that kind of funding that they get from their regional governments because it's seen as a cultural exchange or it's a cultural event or tourism. And the filmmakers that come to us and say, we don't expect any money back, we're just looking to screen our film and get an audience for it and prove that we can do something, you kind of go, that's great. You're going to be a client that when you do get a screener fee, it's going to mean so much more than a filmmaker that kind of goes on expecting money and then doesn't get it. But I think like screener fees is something that always comes up when we speak to festivals, not necessarily because we are asking for them, but because they're almost trying to kind of get out that they can't offer them. And it's very common on rules and regulations that you will see, like we cannot offer screener fees as an upfront. But because there's no regulatory body for film festivals, there's no one to enforce that you should or shouldn't. So you kind of get this very uneven kind of footing when it comes to the landscape. And when we're dealing with international clientele from all over the world, their approach to the circuit is very different. You get some that say, if they can't pay me, I'm not screening my film. And you go, but you can't have that conversation until you've been selected. So you can't negate the system that way.
Many festivals will email and say, oh, we'd love to check out, I read about these films, can you send them to us? But would you be if we select them, would you be charging? And if we say, yeah, well, of course, they won't watch them. But I mean, there's 100 different sides to the argument. I think my general impression is that it's a flawed economy. The bigger the festival, the less they pay. I mean, they don't pay. So if you're a big festival, you'll ideally get hospitality. Some actually won't cover it. I don't know. I mean, I'm not name shaming, but I think we had a couple films in South by Southwest, and I don't think anything was offered to the filmmakers except a couple badges. So all the costs are on their shoulders. Whilst if you go to like a small festival, like a small A-class festival like Transylvania, they'll pay the flight, the hotel, for the director, for the producer, maybe the actor, and they'll pay a screening fee. So the smaller you are, the more you pay. And that's definitely flawed. At the same time, I'm not going to say that a small, you know, like a local festival that genuinely has, and I've worked with I've helped little festivals out, you know, and they have like 10 people in the room paying $5 each. Yeah, okay, why should they be paying $500? But you know, it's still a business. And the thing is, when I hear festivals say we're not for profit, we're charity, we offer exposure, all like, you know, all the selling points, I sometimes think, well, you're paying yourself a salary. You're paying yourself a salary, you're paying your office, you're paying your holiday pay, your pension plan, and you've never factored in that you're getting the product for free. I mean, it's like a supermarket who doesn't pay the farmers. They say, oh, we've got all the costs. We've got the supermarket, we've got the rent, we've got the salaries, we've got the CEO salary. We do all our traveling around the world, globe-trotting, you know, from festival to festival all the time, from Cannes to Berlin to Busan. And the filmmaker is never factored in. And that's wrong, fundamentally flawed. But again, counter argument, not every film is simply good enough, big enough to be, you know, really paid for. It's not that every film has a sales value. So it's not that every short film or feature that is made should have a seller or has a value in whatever territories. You know, it's like distribution product is really the 1%.
I think that this is a very simplified take on how festivals work, because the programmers are very rarely full-time. So working festivals is honestly not great. I live with my parents. And yeah, like rare are the people in a festival that actually make decent money, because so the system is flawed. I agree on that. But a lot of people who work at festivals, they're not here for the money. We're all here because we love films, and the industry knows that. It's very well aware, so we're not paid well. The globe trotting, not every festival has that.
Yeah.
So yeah, for sure, some do, and you'll see their faces at every festival, but others don't. And like when you see my face at festivals, usually I pay for it. I'm not paid to go. So, but I do need to get those films. So I have to go in order to do my job. So it's a little bit of an easy, simplified take on how festivals work. But I do agree that, yeah, like screening fees, especially in the US, are very rarely paid for shorts.
Yeah.
Shorts, like very rarely in the US.
Yeah.
Get screening fees.
I completely agree. I generalized 100%, but actually you do corroborate my argument that the smaller you are, the festival, the more you pay. Because I've been on, you know, worked for a few festivals, and the smaller ones that I started with, I paid my way to Cannes, Berlin, Rotterdam myself in the first 3 years. And when I worked for bigger festivals, the ones who didn't pay the filmmakers, then everything was covered. So yeah, actually, it's kind of this. It's true, you know. You do, but most don't have that luxury. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of our argument, not necessarily in terms of paying screener fees or bigger festivals getting paying less or none at all. It's more to do with festivals in general, that actually a lot of the smaller regional and audience-led film festivals can offer so much more to a filmmaker in terms of hospitality and, you know, accommodation and travel.
A good time.
Yeah. I think it's, I mean, we try, whilst the big festivals are exceptionally beneficial for filmmakers and obviously kind of the kind of financial supporters behind them, I do think that sometimes the smaller ones, which can give just as much, not necessarily exposure, but just as much support, get overshadowed because of that level of prestige. And the prestige supersedes, like, is my film suited here? Am I going to enjoy this experience? Like, we've had clients at very big festivals that came away and were just like, yeah, I got a flat paid for me, but that was it. Like, I wasn't taken into a room and shown to network. I was literally just like, here's the keys to a really nice flat on the Lido, and off you pop. Which, you know, it doesn't really, like, I think filmmakers need to be aware that a film festival doesn't open up everything for you. Like, you know, you get selected, that's great, your film has proved itself, but then, you know, you still have to put in the groundwork, whether that's a big festival or a small festival. I will say, as a shorts filmmaker, you generally are playing second fiddle if you're playing at a festival which has features, because it's premieres, it's galas, it's red carpets, and so on. So you kind of have to be aware of that. I think sometimes filmmakers are wholly unprepared when they go onto a festival circuit, which is kind of why we do things like this, is because we want people to not be overwhelmed, but we also want them to be aware and have their wits about them, that it's not just, you know, time stands still and suddenly I find an agent and I get, you know, a $20 million kind of, you know, signing and everything else. I mean, I haven't even gone to the second question yet. This is great. So I was going to say, how do you find your projects that you work with? And I realized that we kind of touched on that. But in terms of like the organization that you're working with, that you're talking about here, like how do films find their way to you? Because obviously I know the answer to all of your kind of situations, but it would be interesting for people watching to know how they come to you.
As is all, by the way, as is all very, very organic. So it's free to submit your content onto our platform. And in the past, I think 5 weeks, we had about 2,000 films submitted to us through that. So it's we do no marketing on the creator side, as in we don't try and attract more films. It's all organic. The more we get, the better, right? It's fine for us. We're completely scalable as a product, and we're across, we're an iOS, Android, we're global. We have DRM, and the thing is with us is, as soon as you the first thing you do when you join our platform as a filmmaker is that you have to put in your bank account and sort code so you can get paid instantly. So as soon as someone watches and they pay, it lands in your account within minutes, and it's all, you see it live, and it's a fair revenue split. We keep 20%, they keep 80%. So a super fair revenue split between us and the filmmaker. I think because of those kind of selling points, that we are global, we're across different tablets, we have all the kind of good, use it lightheartedly, but Netflix style functionality in terms of screen share and downloading content to watch offline, and AirPlay and Chromecast and social share. It's a good user experience, and it's free, and you earn money in a fair way. We do get a lot of organic traffic from that, more than we can deal with sometimes, but that's a good thing.
Do you take everything on, or do you have a?
No, not at all. We have a team, a small team who will vet and will watch, and so I think in the past couple of weeks we've selected maybe 150 that we're going to be screening, but each one will have its own screening event. So it's almost like, imagine if there was a festival dedicated just to your film, in terms of the audience data you can get, the comments, the experience that you can generate. We take all types of, we take the entire wraparound of that content, so behind the scenes, Q&As. We dig really deep, and because we're a technology platform as opposed to a festival, we kind of wrap technology around the film. We kind of have no, it's not as though we're renting out a cinema, right? That we can only take a certain amount of films. So in theory, if all 2,000 films were good, we'd accept all 2,000 films on our platform. And because each filmmaker will have their audiences that want to share, we obviously can't promote all those 2,000 films on our side, but that's not what we do. We're not a marketing company. So yeah, for us, very organic, which is working for now. ...
Celine, how about you? Because obviously I know that people probably have seen Short of the Week listed on Film Freeway. But
yeah, Film Freeway, since we work like a festival with the programming team and just reviewing films and accepting or declining films, we do function exactly like a festival in that sense. So we use Film Freeway and another platform called Submittable. And there is a fee to submit. We give an answer within 7 days, just so filmmakers can plan ahead, because that's something that can be a bit annoying with festivals. You submit in September and you hear back in May. It just prevents you from planning what you want to do with your film and the strategy in general. And specifically, I'm not going to name names, but I've heard of festivals who are saying, oh, hold on to it, we still don't know if we're going to select it, but we won the premiere, so please don't premiere elsewhere, but we are not telling you that you're accepted, but don't premiere elsewhere. And then you end up not premiering there either. So you've wasted 8 months with also anxiety throughout. So yeah, we do like the 7-day window is something we're really always, that's like the #1 guarantee with us. Someone will watch, a programmer will be watching the film and the decision will be made. We also have a feedback option. For an additional fee, the programmer can just go into details about what worked and what didn't work in the film and why it's not for us. So that's not like a copy paste, like the programmer actually usually rewatches the film and just goes through it, and just like, some of us like even are that precise that we put the time code of like the moment where it worked or not. But yeah, other than that, yeah, we also don't have limited real estate like a festival, and we don't need to put the shorts in a block. So the film is more judged as its own entity compared to a festival where the film just maybe there was no room for it, or it was not just we couldn't fit it in any block. But yeah, other than that, yeah, submissions, that's how it works.
That's a real kind of quick turnaround, I would say, though, like 7 days. I mean, we, as a company, we try and do it within 3. But then sometimes, if we get 3 features, that there's 3 of us watching stuff, but it's still, in and amongst everything else and life.
Yeah, well, for us, it's just short, so that helps.
Yeah.
And we're a few binge watchers on the team. And then there's a few others that also are not epic binge watchers, but know how to pick up the slack when a lot of influx comes at the same time.
I will say, like, when you're a judge for a festival and you've seen some of the films already, it's quite a lifesaver, because you go, oh, I know, I've seen those 3 films on the circuit already, so I know the strengths and I know, the quality of them. But
sometimes I see the same film 3 times because it gets submitted at 3 different places where I go. But also my notes can be different, because I can recommend it for some place, but then not for another, because it doesn't necessarily match the vibe.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think people have that glamorization of the job, which is, oh, you guys all watch films all day. Like, how amazing is that? You're like, yeah, if they're good. Like, if they're bad, it's quite, it can... Yeah. I think we give feedback even if we're saying no to a film, because we want a filmmaker to understand why we're not being a gatekeeper. We're saying that it wouldn't necessarily make sense for us to charge you money when we can already see that it would really struggle. And I'd say it's that classic. It's easy to write great feedback because it just pulls out. But when you want to refine why you're saying no to someone, and you've got to be sensitive, and you've got to try and verbalize and pin to the page what doesn't work without it seeming like you're completely dissecting someone's work, is really hard going. It's knackering. It's really kind of quite draining. But I will say, like, we do it because we want people to understand why somebody's saying no, because obviously festivals don't always have that ability or capacity to be able to say, look, there's a reason we said no, it's because of X, Y, Z. And I always feel like that you have a really good filmmaker in the making when they take that feedback, whether it be negative or positive, and they respect it and listen to it. They might be angry, and like, I don't think I've had an angry phone call for about 10 years now, which is great, but it's because I take time. Like, if I'm taking the time to say to you, this is why we cannot take it on, and I want to highlight something that you can benefit from, the good filmmakers respect that, because they suddenly go, why are they spending so much time telling me no? But it's because we care, most of the time. Xavier, how do you find your projects? Because I know obviously you mentioned earlier in your intro that you are sometimes in the kind of development stage with a film. So how would an average film come to you?
I wish we could give a reply within 7 days. Really good point. I mean, so many different points. One thing is, like, the market has changed quite a lot, whereas plus the size of the company has changed. So at the start, 9 years ago, we kind of only boarded finished products, and now we're in a position where we can board them concept stage, and either based on relationships with usually with the producers, not the filmmakers, but also because the market's sort of becoming, I'm overgeneralizing when I say a pre-sales market, but the whole sales process starts years before launching. And now, I mean, I have like a massive backlog of scripts to read. I need to go through at least one film today after we talk. And it's a mix, I mean, either it's co-production markets, pitching forums, ongoing relationships. There are so many events, most festivals, which ties in with the first question somebody asked about attending festivals. We'll only attend a festival if if there's a really great reason to be there, supporting the publicity, for example, maybe for fun sometimes. But usually it's because we can sell the film at X festival. So, not every festival has a market. I mean, very few actually do have a physical market. And sometimes too many have one also that don't have the buyers attending either. But, I mean, if you go to London Film Festival, you have lots of buyers, international buyers going. If you go to, I don't know, Locarno or Colle Vivari, they announced their lineups yesterday and today. They have literally 200 buyers and programmers attending. And so those places, I mean, if you can take 200 meetings in a small festival, like Locarno, that's better than going to Cannes for some people. It's really great access. So those places will usually host industry events, which are meetings between filmmakers and usually producers and sellers, distributors, either at script stage, things like CineLink in Sarajevo, Cinemart in Rotterdam. There's like a work in progress in Seattle Film Festival. There are events in Sundance also. And so those are all really good places to, pick up on projects or meet people. At the same time, the truth is that if you go to a showcase where they have, 12, rough cuts, 20-minute rough cut screening, and there's you and 30 other sales companies, including the biggest ones in Europe, with deep wallets, deep pockets, you might have one or two films that really stand out and you don't have a chance. So, actually the secondary point is just relationship establishing. And as a sales company, most of our relationships are with the producers, not with the filmmakers. They're the decision maker, and sometimes filmmakers will hover from producer to producer. So there's no loyalty. I mean, it's the decision maker is always the producer, and some will have long-term relationships with set sales companies. The other thing is, we get a lot of stuff sent, obviously, a lot of finished films sent, and most sales companies, on average, I'd say most sales companies have 10 films a year, or let's say like one new film a month, and even that's pushing it. Of course, you have some on the high end to do maybe, I don't know, how many films does Film Nation do? Maybe 50 a year? I mean, it's still not a lot considering they probably sent thousands of films each year. And, if you sent a film by a production company that you know and like and get on well with, you need to get feedback. Like Katie said, you need to watch it in full, and, it's juicing a stone to get sometimes, not because the film is like awful, but it's because, many producers, globally, they make some films for the local market. Yes, their bread and butter is, 2-3 films a year for their local broadcaster. And then if they're lucky, they get away with one, author, director-driven film that in turn, if it's lucky, breaks into the circuit. And those 3 out of 5 films, it's not that they're awful, but they're nothing to do with the international market. So for us to watch them is very, very difficult. You have like a really atypical Turkish film, or like a Argentine romantic comedy. It's just unwatchable for the international audience. But to watch it and give nice feedback, just in case next year they have something, that might be for you. So you have to be nice. It's a lot of effort. And if you're a team, you know, like you said, you're 3 people watching a film. I mean, imagine you've read a script, you're 3 people in the team, and you've all read the script once each. And it might take you, you know, a few hours because it's maybe, you know, a rough script, first draft. So you've spent, you know, half a day each giving feedback, and then maybe a second draft 6 months later, and then an early rough cut, an assembly piece, and then a mid cut, and then a final cut. And then you kind of go, okay, maybe, you know, and you did letters of intent in the process. You helped them find a co-producer. You've helped them with their funding application to the local fund or the European fund. You know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff you do that's sort of pro bono. And in Europe, you don't get paid for it. It's like in Europe, it's like it's being nice. If you don't do the nice stuff, why should I talk to you in the next market? In the US, you get a credit and you get paid. And you get your exec, you know, credit for doing that work. And so the mentality is very different between North America and Europe. And so my point with that little script example is you can, as a team, you can spend a week just on one film that you don't take.
Yeah.
You know, as a team. So it's not one person, it's 3. So it's real money on the table. And you're doing that for, I don't know, like 10 films a month.
Yeah, it's why we don't read scripts, because we have to deal with the finished product.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the scripts, I mean, my background is as a screenwriter, so you know, I'm trained in script reports. It's why we give feedback. It's quite detailed, and it's why we've trained up the whole team to do that. But when you write a script and when you film the script and when you edit the script, they're 3 different versions. And sometimes I might read a script and be like, this is a brilliant script, but in the wrong hands, it can be completely so far removed. So we always get, I mean, I have a similar in that we have a relationship with clients that, you know, sometimes we're looking after a 3rd, 4th, 5th film. So if they're like, I'm working on a script, do you mind reading it? I'm like, yeah, of course, because we know that you're going to engage with us at some point in the process. And if we can stop you from making rookie errors at script stage, then we can kind of help form that film to fruition. But I'd never be able to, as a company, like say, send us your scripts, because there's no validity to us reading it because we're not helping to produce it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But most sales companies are involved in, you know, in the development. Some officially as co-producers, and you know, nowadays, like to get better product, you need to be involved in some capacity, whether it's like accredited or not, as early as possible. And you know, picking up films at festivals is great. Again, it's got to be a festival with some weight, and ideally before the festival, because you know, like we might be able to, you know, to sell it even if it's online during the event. So you know, like right now, Cannes lineup is out, but you know, Cannes is like the auteurs, and it's all taken already. But you know, there's been loads of announcements this week, and you know, some of those festivals have films. It's actually another point. The value of a film changes between, you know, with where they screen. So from script, you know, if it's like a debut, for example, when you don't know if, you don't know, they have no track record, maybe they made a short film, which is great to see and know sort of their quality as a director, but it doesn't tell us anything about them, you know, them delivering a feature. And to take a film to the market is super expensive. So, you know, you have loads of examples where films are sort of turned down by every sales company for 1 year, and then it gets selected in a big festival, and then we all jump at it. And then the producer will get 200 emails in one day saying, hey, is it available for sales? Some companies will say, we're ready to put up cash up front, minimum guarantees. And there is this hypocrisy in sales and distribution where, you know, sometimes better films don't get the big selections, therefore get fewer deals, no sales agent, for example, no distribution deals. And then maybe less good films, for whatever reason, will get a bigger selection. You know, one example is if you have, you know, if you have, we had an Israeli film a couple of years ago, and it was like amazing. But to be really honest, there were 2 better Israeli films that year submitted to Cannes and Locarno and stuff like that. And so we didn't stand a chance. It wasn't that our film was, you know, the worse than the whatever, I'm making it up, worse than the Romanian film in selection or something. You know, it was way better, but festivals can't screen 3 films from the same country in a key section. It's just impossible sometimes. So you do have these sort of political and curation reasons why films won't get in to certain places for a certain reason or time of year.
And premiere as well, premiere stipulation, that kind of doesn't help as well, I would say.
Yeah, and like I said, if a film has launched, it's too late. Of course, I'm generalizing because we take films that, you know, will launch in festivals coming up, but rarely after they've launched. And, you know, that's because before the festival premiere, we'd be taking a film to market screening maybe 6 months, a year ahead of time. So actually most films in Cannes this year screened in a market maybe a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. I remember a few of the films in Cannes when Berlin last year, so February last year. Some of them were works in progress in places like Les Arcs in December. So, you know, we've seen a quarter of them already from the showcases, and so have the buyers. So it's not that they bought them like, you know, pre-sales will buy them, but you can talk to them about it. You can show them clips. You can show them the film. They'll say, oh, it's good. I like it, but let me know if it gets into, you know, a big selection. And, you know, in turn, the buyers will say, I'm shifting the blame onto the buyer. You know, I'm just the messenger. They say what they want and we serve the client. So when filmmakers contact us, we say, well, the buyer said you have to be in a big festival. And they'll say, well, it's not us who decides, it's the cinema. It's the cinema, booker, it's the press. They're not going to review our film if it doesn't do a big festival. Nobody wants to, you know, the big writers and film critics, they don't want to review, you know, the small festival film. And you talk to Variety, you know, and it's not a criticism, they're friends and everything, but, you know, you talk to them and they say, oh man, like we had a few years ago, they reviewed something like 20 films in Rotterdam, maybe 25. And I mean, this is years ago. When I say a few years ago, I really mean like 10 years ago. And 2 years ago, one of them was saying, we're only commissioned to review 7 films this year. 7, that's it. You know, they're paid per review. So I tell you what, they're not going to review the film in the like least good selection, you know, like the experimental section or something. They're just not going to do it. They're paid to cover the competition and then maybe a couple from the sidebar.
Competition / the controversial entries that kind of, you know.
Yeah, the buzz ones or the name, you know, didn't do the competition but is doing something else. You know, it's really limited. And so distributors can say, well, you know, if the journalists don't want to cover the films, then we can't release them in our territory. Whether that's true or not is an entirely different conversation.
It's an odd pipeline, I tell you that. It's very weird. So I've got a question here which was sent in, which was how do you work with your clients and is it bespoke to each film? So Celine and Rishi, I want to come to you two because you're in a landscape where you are presenting a finalized film in a kind of very broad kind of landscape, because obviously you're screening it to an online audience, whether that be private with pause or if it be kind of public with Short the Week. So what's the process once a film gets selected in terms of, you know, is there any extra content that you do with the filmmaker to launch the film, or is it very kind of like there's a structure? Because obviously both of you have only limited slots in terms of what films can get selected. So Celine, can I come to you first?
Once a film is selected, so obviously we notify of the selection and then we try to pick a date together. We encourage people to submit as soon as they can. We can wait around. We do not own the videos. They are uploaded to the filmmakers accounts and then we embed them on the website. So since they have full control of the video, we depend on them more than they depend on us. So we're like, whatever the date is pretty much their own choice. And since we have no requirements in terms of online premiere or whatever, they really have full control over the date. But since we do have a calendar, usually, so we send out a form that is very much like the confirmation forms of festivals, just to get credits right and all those little things, countries, runtime. And we ask when they would like to release. They let us know, and then we see in our calendar and we talk. If the date is available, we're happy to give it to them. If it's not, we try to work together around it. But if they're really hell-bent on that date and we can only do a day or two after, we're always okay with them hitting public and then publishing our piece 2 days later. In said confirmation form, we do ask a few questions that are kind of like what a Q&A would be at a festival. Usually it gives us insight for the write-up. And then, once we have the day, the film is embedded on the website with the full write-up that usually the filmmakers do appreciate, because feature films get a lot of write-ups in all the trades and many blogs, and shorts doesn't happen that often. So always very pleased to see more than 5 lines about their short film.
That's great. And do you work with them on social publishing, or does Short the Week kind of promote it on socials or anything?
We do have social media, so Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We do publish on the day when the review is published. And then we also have a YouTube channel, but that's not for all the films. It's those that agree to go on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Then when we put the video on YouTube, we also do more social media push.
Okay, that's interesting. So is that YouTube optional, that kind of inclusion on the channel? Okay.
Yeah, it's a discussion we start later on. Usually what we want the filmmakers to get the attention, so that's why it's always like we embed their videos first usually.
Yeah.
And then the YouTube conversation happens down the line.
Okay, that's good to know. I mean, I know there are obviously other platforms out there where they upload it and that's kind of what the filmmaker has to then embed elsewhere, because obviously it's kind of somebody else has kind of uploaded it for them. But I always kind of stress to filmmakers, it's so much easier for you to upload it onto your own account, because you know it's always going to be there. And if you need to take it down, or if your licensing runs out of the music or whatever, that you have that ability to pull the plug. But also, you know, a lot of websites do embed. And it's a lot easier if you're doing kind of, you know, a blog tour, that, you know, you're getting somebody to do a coverage and write a review for them to be able to embed it. It's like the easiest thing for a website to do.
But also, like you said, if for some reason they sell it, it has happened to us. Sometimes the film gets sold after being on Short of the Week. Then they just email us. They just let us know, yo, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have to take it down. And since they have control over the video, if they email us and ask us to take it down, of course we will. But since they have control of the video, it's not even on us to do it. They just do it as courtesy call. Just let us know the video will be down, just so on the website we can add currently offline.
Yeah.
And if you can send us a trailer, we'll put the trailer instead. So the write-up will still be available, not the video.
Yeah.
But it's usually it's very rare when that happens. We're very happy for the film, but usually we try to have like a big window of time for the film to be available.
Yeah.
But yeah, if the film gets sold, we're happy for the film. So yeah. We're happy. They can take it. We take it down, no problem. I will say that for everything that has to do with music licensing, Vimeo is much better. Well, I mean, defined better, but Vimeo is much more lax than YouTube. YouTube, the song gets flagged as soon as you upload it. Vimeo, not at all.
That is so true. That's so true. And the other thing about using your own embed as the creative is that you don't dilute the views. They're all going to one source, which means, you know, if you are talking to someone in terms of the next project and you're talking to agents or representation, whatever, if you want to say, yeah, my film has X number of views, it means that they're all accrued here, rather than going, yeah, but it is spread across like this one, this one, this one, this one, because then it kind of gives the air that you're hyping yourself up rather than like.
It also helps with the Vimeo, usually they are on Vimeo. It also helps with the Vimeo algorithm to get like your profile seen, and just like if it's your video, that people can just click on the video and get to your account so they can see what you've done before, your reel or whatever you have in your account. So in that it's definitely easier. But since we don't ask for exclusivity, we encourage them, even if it ends up on our YouTube page, we also encourage them to put it on Vimeo. And sometimes we have the film on our YouTube page, but we embed their Vimeo on the website, because our YouTube audience and our website audience are not necessarily the same people.
I think it's nice. I think it shows a level of respect for the filmmaker's work as well, which is, you know, important in this day and age. Rishi, you obviously help do premieres as well, in terms of, you know, an attended online premiere, as it were. So if you're working with a film, like what can you offer the filmmaker? Because I know you mentioned earlier about kind of doing a full wrap round in terms of like behind the scenes and Q&As. So can you expand a bit more on that? That'd be great to hear a bit more.
Yeah, so I mean, we see each film as an event, a mini event. It's the almost the opposite of what you're just saying there. On a short of the week, once as long as possible, we kind of do the opposite, where we think a short amount of time builds hype around an event and gets people to it. So, for example, what we used to do is have we do a lot of live streaming as well, live stream screenings and premieres, and we can make them private and password protected, so you can, you know, if it's in a festival circuit but you want to show friends and family, which was quite important during lockdown because people wanted to show people but couldn't have friends over to their house. And we used to live stream it and then say, oh, and if you miss it, you can catch up with it next week. And we just found that numbers started to drop straight away, because people are like, oh, I don't have to watch it right now, I'll just watch it at my own time. And revenue went down, buzz went down, social engagement went down. And so we kind of do the opposite. We say, look, there's a small window of opportunity where you can watch this film on pause. Yeah, you can watch it perhaps somewhere else and you can find it online quite easily. But on here, you know, not only, I mean, there's the kind of personal data angle where we don't take your personal data and sell on to advertisers. So, you know, we don't have that. But also we have a really fair revenue split, such opportunity to support filmmakers directly in the way it's really easy and seamless, because we've got things like Apple Pay, Google Pay, Microsoft Pay, Stripe, and you can literally send a token of your appreciation, a small kind of payment, or large. I mean, about 2 weeks ago, someone tipped £1,000 for a film, just off the cuff, and you know, £800 went to that person's account within 2 minutes because it's so quick and easy. But it's a limited time, right? So the film was an hour off from closing on pause. The tip came through like in the last hour, and then, you know, good to go. We now, what we've also done is, because the question I think was around, you know, how bespoke can you make each thing, and for us, yeah, I mean, there we have our business as usual. We have an event page. We can either sell tickets for a screening, digital tickets, should I say, or give for free. Most of the time it's for free. And then we will sometimes do social posts around it. Sometimes we don't. I mean, we're not going to do it for, you know, 100 films a week, right? Because our Instagram feed would just fill up massively. And we can curate things around the filmmaker. Sometimes we've done kind of live musical performances for the music that's in the film, which has been really cool. We've done Q&As with different people involved in the film. You know, we've done a variety of things. We did a sci-fi, Ian McKellen's film, like he did a sci-fi film in March, and so we did a live screening of that, and we did a Q&A with Sir Ian McKellen, where people were asking questions on Twitter, and then I was feeding them through to him on a Zoom call. And it was, you know, so we do different things for different people on the odd occasion, but most of the time we have our business as usual, which is still quite personalized and still feels like it's your own personal event. And finally, what I've also started doing, just because of that long tail strategy, if a film comes through pause and they submit it and it gets approved, even if it's in theory up on there for 2 minutes, people have their own digital and individual tipping profile. So everyone basically keeps a website that's made automatically through pause. It's mypause.tv/, and it's a code. And so everyone gets that at the end of their event, which means you can put your film anywhere else. And underneath that, you can say, hey, if you like my film, you want to say thanks, you want to support me, I'm funding my next film. Here's my page where you can kind of show your appreciation, send me a tip, and it's a fair split. And again, it's all quick and easy. And yet that gets generated for people to use for life, and it's locked to that film. So it's not that you can use it, and I don't know, you make another film elsewhere with a different group of people, and you rip off the editor from the last one. It doesn't matter because the money's still going to go to the account linked to that film. So it's very different to kind of there are like, you know, buymeacoffee.com where you can set up a profile and you get money through that. This is linked to the asset that you uploaded with, so each bit of content can drive some revenue.
Oh, that's interesting. It's a bit like Venmo, but for
yes.
film. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And can I ask, is that because you mentioned about international filmmakers? Is that something that is accessible worldwide in terms of that payment link?
It will be soon. Oh yeah, so the payment link is accessible worldwide. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So
the payment link is global.
Okay, perfect. So you know, like a Canadian filmmaker can register on the platform, and they can still receive.
Oh no, okay. So we are only set up for certain bank accounts. But we are expanding that. Like our product roadmap, one of the highest priority items is be able to get signed up for international bank accounts so that people can receive payments wherever they are in the world. At the moment, we're hacking away around that. So if you live in Iran, but you want to receive money for your films, you'd have to kind of ask a family or friend who lives somewhere else to set the account for you, and send, which is it's not nice. It's a hacky way of doing it, but we're working around it because we get a lot of international clients. But it's something we're rolling out. We want to be basically available in, because we are available globally. People can stream content globally, but not global filmmakers. Not every bank account and is accepted on our platform for security reasons. We just don't have the infrastructure there yet, but we are rolling it out. But anyone in the world can pay.
Brilliant. God, I feel like I should make my own one. Get paid a little bit more. Okay, so I have another question here, which it will be interesting because obviously you're at different levels in terms of filmmaker. But someone has said, like, how do I know what is the right route for me? Is it selling my film? Is it premiering online? Is it doing online premieres myself and doing a blog tour? I mean, I'm going to preface that by saying that every film is very unique and different and might not necessarily be a film for the festival circuit for a start, which it's, you know, why I really like the fact that there's lots of different routes for a filmmaker to take. But it would be interesting to know your individual thoughts to that. Like, how would a filmmaker know what is the right route for them, whether it be trying to sell it or going online? Bearing in mind, you're all going to be talking from your own angle. So Xavier, I'll start with you first.
Yeah. I mean, just to deconstruct a tiny bit, you know, sales companies, just like any agent, we make a living by taking a commission on any sale we get. So theatrical, SVOD, Netflix, TV, broadcasters, festivals. And that commission is, the bigger the film, the smaller the commission. So, you know, if it's a blockbuster, it's, I don't know, 5%, sometimes less. If it's a difficult experimental documentary, it might be 35%. For some films, it's even 50%. But then, you know, there's also expenses. So every time we take a film to the market, have market screenings, hire publicists, hire, you know, host a party, there are expenses associated. Usually, again, the bigger the film, the bigger the expenses. That can be, you know, that can be 5,000 euros for a small film. It can be maybe 250,000 for a Cannes competition A-lister film. So, you know, it really varies. And those expenses come out of your cut, out of the filmmaker's cut. And, you know, out of that commission, let's say it's 20, 25% average for like the average, indie film. You can be a sales company with a team, a team of salaries to cover. And again, I'm not going to even go into the math, but you have to, if the base cost you need to cover is just the salaries, no profit margin, nothing else, there's a minimum you need to earn. And the problem is most films are not sellable enough for that minimum. And the minimum might be, I mean, on the extreme, let's say it's like 50,000 euros is the minimum the film needs to make. And if you take like, I don't know, like the average indie, it's not going to make that. It's just like, that's like, you'd have to get, considering an American buyer might pay upfront a minimum guarantee of $5,000 to $10,000. Let's say that's the average. Again, simplifying, you'd need to get about 8 theatrical deals out of the film. And that's tough. That's better than some films screening in Critics Week Cannes are going to get. So, if your film is small, how can a sales company break even? So it's not about not being sellable. You don't have a sales value. It's just, for somebody to work for free on your film for 3 years for commission, your film needs to cover, that commission needs to cover their time. And most won't do that. So, how do you know? Well, it's difficult for filmmakers or producers to assess their own film because, I mean, you love your film most than anybody else. And I guess don't ask feedback from your friends and family because, you're only going to hear good things. But, you should be able to get a feel of the market by talking to sales companies, by seeing what the festival reaction, programmer reactions are. Are the big festivals saying, yeah, we really like this or not? Are sellers seriously considering the film or not? And, like the bar is really high. I mean, you've got to just look at like what your local distributors are buying. I mean, if you're in the US, you can just take the top relevant distributors and you know what the bar is. If you're in the UK, you look at what Artificial Eye is buying, and it's like Stephen Frears, it's Lars von Trier, it's Pavel Pawlikowski. They paid $1 million upfront for those films. Why would they buy yours? Does your film compete? And it might. This is the thing. It might if it has the right elements. If you're this wonderful, out of the blue discovery hit that comes out of, again, it doesn't need to be Cannes. It can be like Carlo Vivari. It could be a London Film Festival. If it's that delicious little filmmaking piece that does work and that does get the buzz, yes, they might buy it. And you don't need to be the big auteur. And that's what we're all aiming for. We're aiming to position those films and up the value as much as possible. So, but I mean,
it's research as well, isn't it? It's kind of knowing, if you're going to approach a sales agent, know what they're wanting and know what they like. Because...
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, you're not going to send, I mean, some companies just do LGBT, some just do genre films, some just do Jewish films, some just do Black filmmaker films, some only do female directors. Yeah, do your homework. If you have a film that's similar to something else, see who sold it. That might, I mean, again, it's not that we want the same film twice. At least the kinds, if you have a horror, well, see who's selling horror.
Yeah.
If you have a LGBT film, see who does that. And that's usually an easy way to, do your homework. But if after 6 months or a year, let's say a finished film, like a completed film, nobody is saying, it's big enough for us, maybe don't wait too long. But for sure, until the film has screened, the film is still new. And, if you screen the film somewhere and then spend a year looking for a sales agent or even longer waiting, and we hear this, sometimes they say, oh, I wanted to wait until I screened in lots of places before talking to you. And that's the worst strategy.
Words to live by. So Celine, what do you say? How do a filmmaker decide what's the right route for them?
So when they're asking us, that's the beginning of the problem, because that's not for us to answer, that's for them. Mm-hmm. But for them to answer that question is what Xavier just said. You got to do your homework. And that's something I always say. Do your homework, do the research. Look up for festivals instead of blindly submitting everywhere. Look at what those festivals program. Same for a sales agent. If you start reaching out to sales agent, look at what they do. Sales agents usually have a vibe, so you can just look at what they've had in their catalog and just figure it out that way. And a little bit of self-awareness, but that's the hardest part. Just be aware of the other films that are being made at the same time. Mm-hmm. When you're making a Corona film, don't believe that you're the only one. Yeah. In like 2 miles radius, there's already other people who are doing exactly the same thing with probably a better iPhone than yours. So just be aware of everything that's around you. And I know that filmmakers know how to make films, but usually the problem is that they don't watch enough. They watch all the old classics and can list you all the big directors. They've seen them. They can list them as their influence. I'm talking about the directors that are on the same level. Yeah. All the emerging directors, look at what they're doing, because those are the people, those are your peers, and these are the people you should be comparing yourself to, just like to be aware of what's in the middle. And then it really depends with shorts and features, because a feature, each time it screens, its value decreases. Like you said, Xavier, if the film comes to you after so many festivals, too late. For a short, honestly, do as much as you can. But for features, because there's more money at stake. So of course, you really gotta keep that in mind and be much more mindful of your premiere as well. Because with shorts, again, most short film festivals don't care about the premiere except for the big ones. So yes, Cannes wants a premiere, but I mean, again, self-awareness. Do you believe your film will be the one of the 15 that will be selected? Also, be aware that it has to be under 15 minutes. Don't submit your film if it's 30 minutes. So it's just, there's a lot. In the US, they are very, very cool with premieres. Sundance and South by, every year, there are films that are already online in the lineup. For shorts, of course. Features, like I said, completely different game. Features, the least it has been seen, the better it is. I mean, but for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I know, Celine, you and I have had a massive kind of rant about kind of film festivals and filmmakers not understanding what they want and what they should do and everything else. We're rapidly running out of time. I could gas bag for the rest of it, but I'm gonna ask one last question to you, Rishi, because I think it would be really interesting in terms of where you are in this kind of ecology. What do you think filmmakers have learned from the last year?
You have to innovate in order to sustain yourselves, I think, and also become more commercially minded. I think it's the last thing that filmmakers want to hear, but I think it's important. Economies are going down, cinemas shut, film festivals closed, things went hybrid, no one knew what they were doing, and so filmmakers, producers, directors, writers had to think more like entrepreneurs. I wrote this piece about every film as a startup, because I work with films, but I also work with startups, and I've come from a very corporate background. And I think that there's a case, not everyone's going to resonate with it, but there's a case that people, it's the whole thing about show business that becomes all show and no business, right? And I hate to be the business one in there, but if filmmakers are serious about making films, then you got to think about how you're going to find your audience, how you're going to monetize the audience, how you're going to market your film, how you're going to distribute it, what's the right angle. Ask those hard questions and not just focus on the film itself, because it is show business and business is part of it. And so last year's taught filmmakers anything, it's to innovate. Lots of opportunities out there, whether it's us, whether it's any other platform. There's a hybrid of different models out there, different festivals who are different things. So be creative with your creation, I suppose.
Oh, perfect. That's a nice way to end it. And I will say, just an addendum to that, is every filmmaker should not treat this as their last ever film they're going to make. because I think that's where rookie decisions can be made, which is, oh, you know, I've just got this film, so I've got to submit it to that really expensive festival that I know it's not going to suit, but I've got a film, I've made a film, but it's not going to be your last film, hopefully. So that brings me to the final part, which is where I have to say a very hearty thank you to all of our guests tonight. So to Celine, Xavier and Rishi, thank you so much for all of your insights and your advice as well. And I know we've got a comment on the chat here, and I know that Facebook people have been messaging me privately to say that they really enjoyed this. It's been brilliant to hear your insights, and I want to thank you for your time as well. And I know, Xavier, it's not the nicest of time zones for you right now, so thank you so much. And for those watching too, it's been a real pleasure for me being able to deliver these sessions through all of last year, but especially this one in particular, in terms of having a bit of a journey. And it's been a really tricky time for a lot of creatives, and we know that people have been getting in touch saying thank you so much for this. And as you said earlier, Celine, like filmmakers attending industry events and learning stuff, which is really, really good. I know that whilst we may be all getting tired of Zoom appearances and craving festival trips, and they are beginning to happen, it's good to know that we can still keep the conversation going about our industry and be supportive to creatives, and also have a space to moan. I think we should do this more often, because it means that we can get conversations going and get quite heated about things. But I just want to say a massive thank you to being our audience for the Filmmaker Lounge Digital Bootcamp, and I wish you all of the best. Thank you once again to our guests, and until we see each other again in real life or on digital platforms, please stay safe and keep creative. And thank you again. Thank you so much to everyone.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you.